What is up? And welcome in. It's a special day after edition of Post Loons. It's Sunday, June 26th. My name is Jeremy Rushing, and I feel like we just needed a day to process what we saw last night with Minnesota United and Inter Miami FC. To be honest, I wasn't able to watch the game last night, which is why I didn't do a Post Loons last night. Rewatched it late night last night, sort of caught the highlights and all the big takeaways again today. So we are here to sort of take all that information, take all that viewership, take all of just the craziness that happened down in Fort Lauderdale last night and regurgitate it here on Post Loons. This is also a bit of a safe space, if you will, just a corner, a place to vent, a place to air your frustrations. Also a place to, if you saw anything positive last night, to air that out as well. How you doing? Thanks again for tuning in, even though we are on late night, or I shouldn't say late night, but late as in 24 hours after the match ended last night between Minnesota United and Inter Miami. It did end in a 2-1 loss for Minnesota United. 2 late goals for Miami, doing in the Loons. And only now, as John Marthaler pointed out on Twitter, 4 points taken out of a possible 24. So that's 4 points taken in the last 8 matches for Minnesota United. It is a rough stretch for the Loons. Also a stretch in which they extended their manager. Well, they announced the extension of their manager for another 2 years. So a lot to be concerned about, but maybe we saw some positives last night. So what I want from you guys is to drop your questions, your comments, your takes. You're going to have to do that over on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching on YouTube, first of all, thank you for doing so. Give us that thumbs up. Tap the bell to be notified whenever we drop a new video. And give us a question or comment to respond to there in the chat. If you're watching over on Twitter and you want to participate in the conversation, you're going to need to go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com, and just search Post Loons or Sota Soccer. And you will find us, and then you're able to drop your question or comment in the chat there. But we are going to go ahead and get started here on our end. And I'm going to start, as I always do, with my 3 things. My 3 things from last night are pretty simple. I'm not reinventing the wheel here, probably not saying anything that you weren't expecting with these 3 things. But obviously, the struggle continues. This is a downward spiral for Minnesota United right now. It's gone from a rut in the road to an absolute. I feel comfortable saying that is the downward spiral now for Minnesota United. You're down near the bottom of the Western Conference. Yes, there are a lot of games left. Yes, technically points wise, you're not that far up from a playoff spot, but it's not going well. And there are a lot of things you can point to as reasons why. Defensive miscues, mistimed counterattacks directly leading to goals, an inability to score goals, an inability to finish chances, an inability to take advantage of the opportunities that you're given by the opposition. That's all been there for a while, for matches on end. And it's something that Minnesota United, if they are going to crawl back into this playoff race, they are going to need to fix pretty much all of those if they want to crawl back in this. It's not just as it was a couple months ago, like, oh, they can't score. That's the only issue. If they fix that, they're good. No, there are issues now on the defensive side. There are issues in the midfield as well with turnovers. So it's becoming a broader overall issue than it originally was. And that's concerning to me. And it doesn't seem like Adrian Heath is able to overcome those with managerial decisions that are positively impacting the game either. So that takes it to a whole nother level. But the struggle continues, and unless they're able to turn it around like that, I don't know what's going to help that and what's going to turn that around moving forward. Besides the goal from Almeria up front, really looked meh. The first half against New England was very, very positive. I thought maybe there were some things you could take away from that and move forward. But aside from the goal, 10 shots, only that one on goal for Minnesota United. They were not creating a lot of danger in the attacking third like they did in that first half against New England. So we'll see if they can turn that around. But yes, Almeria gets on the score sheet. he's kind of gifted that goal in a way, you could say. And aside from that, there weren't a lot of A+ chances, I would say, for Minnesota, aside from the goal there. And my final thing, third and final thing, another defensive error costs Minnesota United. And this was on the winner. You're just unable to clear the ball. You have to clear that. If you clear that, you walk away with a road draw. Maybe you're still feeling disappointed about the way the match went, giving up a late equalizer, but at least you walk away with a point. At least you walk away with a road point, and there's something to be taken and some positivity moving forward. But you don't clear it. You give up the winner, and now the vibes are the opposite of good moving forward, right? This is one of the toughest stretches over the last 3 or 4 years, maybe the toughest stretch over the last 4 years for Minnesota United. And that is where my 3 things end. If you're watching and you want to leave a question or comment and contribute to the conversation, maybe leave your 3 things, 2 things, 1 thing, just your overall biggest takeaway from the match. You can do that on our YouTube channel. I would love for you to participate in the conversation. That would be awesome. And as you're doing that, I'm going to give a huge shout out to our friends over at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. I'm going to have to lean over here for the ad reads tonight, but that's okay. 801 South 9th Street in Minneapolis. You can see, oh, wait, I got to go. Nope. There we go. That way is the address. 801 South 9th Street in Minneapolis. Minnesota watch parties, Minneapolis City watch parties. Soccer, if there's soccer on during the day, it'll be on the TVs at 9th Street. Just an overall great soccer place, not only to go and watch soccer and drink some coffee and hang out and, with other people involved in the Twin Cities soccer community, but you can go get your soccer on at 9th Street as well, because they have weekly affordable pickup available. It's a really cool place, rain or shine, excessive heat, whatever. It doesn't matter the weather. You can go and get some pickup in over at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. Very centrally located there in Northeast Minneapolis too. If you're coming from, the city itself, if you're coming from the Western burbs, if you're coming from the Eastern burbs, if you're coming from St. Paul, it doesn't matter. It's very, very easily accessible. I'm out in Cottage Grove, Southeast. I'm there in 20 minutes. It's very, very easily accessible. I never really run into traffic. Just hit 280 and you're good to go. So, this is an overall cool place. I would highly recommend it. If you are a fan of soccer, maybe you like playing soccer, whatever, and you have not been to 9th Street Soccer and Coffee, I could not recommend it enough. A great place. 801 South 9th Street, Minneapolis. Hit them up on Twitter and Instagram at 9th Street MPLS. That is 9th and Street spelled out, just like you see there in the website URL as well. And of course, you can see that website URL, 9thstreetmpls.com, to learn all about our friends over at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. There we go. Now we're back. All right. So let's get into the goals here. There were 3 goals last night. 1 on the positive side for Minnesota United, right? And 2 not so much. So let's get into how these goals happen, who made them happen, just how the ball went in the back of the net last night. So 65th minute is where it got started for Minnesota United. Reynoso sends a beautiful cross in the box. Fragapane is able to keep it from going out over the end line and sort of scissor kick it back central. There are a couple Miami defenders that are sort of in between Fragapane and Amarilla, but they are just not able to corral this kickback, if you will. And the ball ends up right at the foot of Amarilla on the doorstep. He puts it away for the opener. Good to see him get back on the score sheet. Obviously, it was a very positive sign moving forward that, they're on the road. They're playing pretty well on the fact that they're doing okay in possession and they're not allowing a bunch of A+ opportunities for Miami. Again, they weren't really doing much in the attacking third to generate A+ chances. But overall, I thought they were holding their own over the course of the match up to that point, and you get the goal, so you are feeling good up to that point. But then in the 8th, that's where everything really started to change. And this is what I saw a lot of last night on Twitter, and I want to address this. The feeling that Minnesota United parked the bus too early. Parking the bus obviously means you just go in full defense mode. And there were some substitutions made in between the 70th and 75th minute to basically suggest that Minnesota United was going into a defensive mode, right? But these goals, both of these goals, I will argue, did not happen, were not a byproduct of Minnesota United packing it in. I'm not sure what's going on with the camera here, guys. I might have to switch cameras. I apologize. Give me 1 second. All right, let's see if y'all all can see me now. Come on. Sure you can still hear me. We should be back. Come on. There we are. There we are. I'm back. Sorry, guys. Had some camera issues there. This webcam. I've never had issues with it before. But anyways, where were we? We were talking about the first goal, and we were talking about how a lot of people blame the goals on the fact that Minnesota United went in full defense mode. They quote unquote parked the bus. I actually disagree with that sentiment. I saw the first goal being a byproduct of a failed counterattack. Minnesota United were trying to get out on a counter, trying to push for a second goal, push for a second goal at that point, trying to put the game out of reach. But Ray turns it over. And the fact that they were trying to send numbers forward on the counter, it was a turnover in a terrible position at a terrible time. And everybody is caught out of position pretty much defensively for Minnesota United. The few guys that were on the back line at that point, or who were staying on the back line, I do not know who they were at that particular juncture, but just completely caught out and just completely hung out to dry, basically. And you see that in the way Miami was able to just pretty much flawlessly move the ball. Ends up at the feet of Indiana Vasiliev. I will get his name right. Vasiliev. And he puts it in the back of the net. Pretty much from the 6-yard box. Very open space to work with. A lot of gaps for passing lanes because Minnesota United was trying to hit a counter and they were caught. That's really what it came down to. It was not because they were parking the bus. It was not because they were taking on pressure, shots. Although they did near the end of the match because they were parking the bus. That's what happens. You take on more pressure. But that is not what led to either Miami goal. The first goal for Miami was because they were actually trying to push for a second goal. The opposite of packing it in. And you saw what happened. Just a poorly timed turnover at the worst possible time, worst possible position, and it ends up in the back of the net. And all of a sudden now we're equal in the 87th minute. And just a few minutes later, 90th minute is where Miami gets the winner. It's a cross into the box that Minnesota is just unable to. There was a couple attempts at a clearance. I think Hlongwane was in there. Debasi might have been in there as well. And they just were not able to clear the ball. Somebody trips. It might have been Bongi, and the ball is just sort of left out open in the box and ends up at the foot of Vasiliev again. He puts it in the back of the net. And what do you know? That's the winner. Minnesota United loses 2-1 after taking a 1-0 lead into the 87th minute. Oh, that's a tough one to take, especially given the stretch that this team has been on. That's a really, really tough one to take. It's a tough one to swallow. It leaves a very, very sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. United fans are obviously frustrated. I completely understand that. As a fan of this team myself, I sort of try to walk that line between media and fandom. But I would say if this is more of a fan podcast, right? It's not really a media podcast. It's more of a fan podcast, in my opinion. And so we can express our frustrations. We can express our dissatisfaction, sort of just overall the feeling of emptiness after a match like this. It's tough to take. This stretch has been really, really tough to take. 4 points in 8 matches. It's just rough. It's just really, really rough. And I don't know if this Minnesota United team, it's going to take a lot for them to come back from this because they have more holes than just in the attack now. And that's more holes to plug. Maybe they'll be active in the summer transfer window. There's a report out there that Adrian Nunu's transfer to Angers in League One has been finalized and that he will be moving there. Again, I'm not able to confirm that myself, but that is a report that's out there. Obviously, it has been confirmed that Minnesota United is looking to shop him, and Angers is one of the teams that were on that short list of teams that he could go to. So if that has been finalized, good for him. That will obviously open a DP slot and hopefully an opening that Minnesota United can do well to fill. But other than that, there's not a lot positive right now, right? There's not a lot that you can really look to at Minnesota United. It's like, oh, that's exciting. MNUFC 2, that's exciting. Azeel Jackson, exciting. Tommy Williamson, exciting. Devin Paddleford, exciting. But I don't know if those guys, I mean, Azeel Jackson, I think he should be getting an opportunity with the first team. I will be the first to throw that out there. I think at this juncture, the way things are going, why not throw Azeel Jackson in the first team and see what happens? He has been excellent in MLS Next Pro, one of the best players in the entire league as far as MLS Next Pro is concerned. He stepped up and performed really, really well in Minnesota United's friendly against Paderborn. The way things are going, you don't lose anything by giving him a chance. You don't. You don't at all, because things are not going well. Things are going nothing but south. So in my opinion, you need to start shaking it up. And this is the guy who's talked about consistency, continuity, fluidity, breeding success for this team, imploring Adrian Heath to just try the same starting 11 2, 3, 4 matches in a row and see what that can give you. But I almost think, and it's weird to say, sitting here June 26th, I think we're past that point now. Amaria scored. Great. He didn't really look good any other point in the match. Reynoso had a good cross on the goal. He had a couple other good opportunities. Other than that, he didn't look great. Robin Lod didn't look great. Fragapane didn't look great. Throw Azeel Jackson in there and see what happens. That's what I would do moving forward. If you're talking about one thing moving forward that can pique the interest and excitement of Minnesota United fans, obviously start winning. But I don't think the roster that's out there that's going to happen right now. I don't. And that's hard for me to say, because I was very, very bullish on this roster coming into the season. I thought this was the best roster that Minnesota United had ever constructed. I said I would put this roster up against any in MLS. I was wrong. I was way, way wrong. There are some holes. There are some absolute holes here that I don't know if Minnesota United can plug all of them in the transfer window, at least enough to get back into the playoffs, in the playoff picture. I don't know if they can do that. So I would say, if you get that new DP spot with Adrian Nunu, my first thing would be don't rush that. Don't try to get somebody, especially with an open DP slot. I think that is one thing that no matter how south this season goes, that will give Adrian Heath another year, an open DP slot to work with. So I think don't rush how you fill that DP slot moving forward. If you find the right guy in the summer transfer window, great. If you don't, I think you can wait till the winter. I think that's perfectly fine. See out the rest of this year and try to fill that with the right piece moving forward in the winter. And my second thing is start shaking it up. Play guys like Azeel Jackson. Call a Devin Paddleford up. Let's see some of these guys who are just absolutely standing out in MNUFC 2. Let's see them on the main roster and see what can happen. Because I think that's not where you're at right now on June 26th. I think you're at a point where you can start shaking it up. But if this goes south, if you go another 4 or 5 matches of this kind of run, you're going to be in sort of scouting the future phase really, really quick. And so those guys are going to have to be up anyways. So why not call the best ones up right now and see what they can bring you? And see if they can bring you something this year. And see if they can help you crawl back into the playoff contention this year. I don't know. What do you guys want to see moving forward from Minnesota United? What are your reactions from the matches last night? Hit us up in the comments. I'm going to go to Twitter here because we did get a couple Twitter comments on when we were going live tonight. Dean Campbell says, all this park the bus talk is ridiculous. Game is completely under control until Reynosa's turnover with Arriaga out of position, leaving Hayes isolated and Duke open. Terrible awareness and decision making. Yeah, Dean, that's kind of what I said. On the goal, I didn't really attribute either of the goals to parking the bus. I thought it was more due to the poorly timed turnover and the attacking third. But if you guys have any other thoughts, questions, comments, feel free to drop them in. And while you're doing that, I'm going to shout out our friends over at Pence Homes. Nate Pence has been a huge supporter of us since we launched Sota Soccer back in February. And he's also a huge supporter of the Minnesota soccer scene in general. You'll see him at Minnesota United games. You'll see him at Minneapolis City games. You'll see him at Minnesota Aurora games. He is directly supporting those clubs, not only with his support, but also with his pocketbook as well. He's a sponsor for Minneapolis City. He helps out with Minnesota Aurora. He's a sponsor for us here at Sota Soccer. He really is as devoted to helping the Twin Cities soccer scene as we are, or the Minnesota soccer scene in general as we are. And, the fact that aligns made this a perfect partnership between us and Pence Homes. And they're also great at their job too, right? Pence Homes, a group of realtors specializing in the St. Paul and Minneapolis area, countless 5-star reviews. You just go to their website, pencehomes.com. You can see just the number of 5-star reviews that they have. It's because they do excellent work. And if you're looking to buy or sell or both in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area, Pence Homes is where you should be going. pentzhomes.com or email Nate directly, nate@pencehomes.com. Big thanks to Pence Homes for helping us out here on the Loons post-game show, on the 10,000 Pitches podcast, and everything we're doing over at sotasoccer.com. So moving forward here, I talked about kind of what I wanted to see moving forward. Well, where we will see Minnesota United moving forward on the pitch is Wednesday at LA Galaxy. It's a late one. It's a 9:00 kick. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for Minnesota United to get back in the win column after 4 straight losses now, if you count the Omaha match. If you don't count the Omaha match, just 3 straight losses. But either way, obviously things are not going well. They need a boost. They need a spark. Obviously, getting 3 points on the road at LA would do that. I don't even know if a point really would do anything to adjust expectations for this club moving forward. I think they're at a point now with this downswing that they're on. They would need a road win at LA to really try to lift the spirits of the Minnesota United fans and the Minnesota United faithful and start to, get this ship moving in the right direction, to start having the discussion about this team be positive again. And then after that one, they are home on Sunday, July 3rd. So the day before the 4th of July, 7:00 kick against Real Salt Lake. And then after that one, you go to Vancouver on Friday, July 8th. So Wednesday, Sunday, Friday for the Loons. Their next 3 matches at LA, home against Real Salt Lake, and at Vancouver. I think you need 9 points out of 9 here to really try to turn this thing around and get back into the playoff picture. I mean, at this point, it is what it is. I mean, you've kind of put yourself in the position now with 3 straight losses. We've mentioned it, 4 points in 8 matches. You need that big spark. A nice road draw against LA isn't going to do much. A home draw against a really good Real Salt Lake team isn't going to do much. A road draw up north of the border in Vancouver is not going to do much. You need wins. You're at the point now where you're near the bottom of the West. The Western Conference is excellent this year. You see teams in the playoff picture coming away with 3 points consistently. That means you need to start getting 3 points out of matches. I think you put yourself in a position where draws really don't do much for you at this point. And that's where we're at for Minnesota United. This is a weird conversation to be having. This is a different conversation than I thought we would be having on June 26th, to be honest with you. I was very, very optimistic coming into the season. Very optimistic coming into the season about what this team could do, where this team could go, the way this roster was built and constructed. I thought this team could do big things. I thought this team could sort of get back to pre-2021 expectations of being a top-tier team in the West. Now, June 26th, we're just hoping they can put some wins together and crawl back into the playoff picture. But even if they do that, I don't think the confidence will fully be restored until they really address some of the issues that they're having on the pitch. Goal scoring, defensive play. Those are, it's weird that we're talking about defensive play as an issue. But when you have this revolving door and you have so many guys slotting in and out of the defense, it's going to catch up with you eventually. They were able to withstand that for a while. But the center back play over the last 4 matches or so has not been great. Debasi has made some mistakes. Boxall has made some mistakes. These are guys who put in man of the match performances consistently earlier in the season, right? So it's not just the attacking. It's not just the striking. It's not just the goal scoring or lack thereof. There are now more problems across the pitch. Springer Fragapane on the left is non-existent in most matches now. Luis Amaria, he got a goal. Great. Other than that, non-existent in this match. A lot of things need to be turned around. I think that's what we have sort of the lesson to be learned, or the main point of this particular episode of Post Loons, is that there are a lot of things that need to be turned around on the pitch. And maybe a few things that need to be turned around on the sideline too. Maybe some tactical changes need to be made, right? Because we know that Adrian Heath just signed a 2-year extension, but I'm of the opinion that he will still be held accountable if the results don't come for this team. I don't think that 2-year extension is a 2-year guarantee that we're going to see Adrian Heath on the sideline if this really starts to go south. Because they can buy him out. They can sack him at any point during that. Obviously, they'd have to pay out a certain portion of his deal that was agreed upon in the contracts. And the way MLS contracts work and how hush-hush they are, you were probably never going to see what that number is. But with it only being a 2-year deal, I can't imagine it's going to break Minnesota United's bank to buy out Adrian Heath if they decide he's not the right fit moving forward. You see managers get fired before their contracts end all the time. So if this does continue to go south, the Minnesota United ends up 10th or worst in the West, he's the one who's going to be held accountable for that. So if you are somebody watching this and you believe that Adrian Heath is not the future of this team, not the future right person on the sideline for this team, which is a very, it's a very understandable opinion at this juncture. If you're of that opinion, then obviously you're not confident that the results are going to come. So if the results don't come, you're going to see the manager held accountable, or at least you should. If the manager isn't held accountable and the results don't come at the end of the season, that's when you can start asking questions. That's when you can start being concerned about the way that this team is being ran. But it's hard to get rid of a coach who's consistently making the playoffs, right? So if they don't end up in the playoffs at the end of the year, especially if they end up where they are now, which I think 12th in the West at this point, then that's when I think you could see a move made. And if a move is not made, then yes, more questions can come after that. But it is only June 26th. We are 3 months and change still away from the end of the season. There's a lot of things that could happen between now and then. There's, theoretically, presumably an open designated player spot coming. There are a lot of guys playing well in him in the UFC too. So there are potential positives from this. But I understand right now, I understand right now that it's not looking good, and Minnesota United fans have every absolute right to be frustrated with the way the season is going. 100%. That'll do it for Post Loons, guys. The day after Post Loons, if you will. I appreciate all the viewership, all the support that you've given Sota Soccer over these first 4 months. All the support that you guys have been giving Post Loons as well. Really appreciate it. Especially when we don't do it after a match. You know, we wait a day to do it. I know it can be weird. I know you're probably anticipating it after the match. When you don't get it, it's probably frustrating. So I know it can be kind of weird, but you know, family obligations sort of took precedent this weekend. So we'll be back though. We'll probably do pre-Loons on Wednesday night with it being a late start. And then we'll be back for a regular edition of Post Loons on Sunday following the match against RSL. Till then, enjoy your week, guys. Let's see what happens on Wednesday, and then we can talk about it after the fact. All right. See you guys later. Have a good one.